It's
Hey,
perfect. Hey, Sophia, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. I'm loving the is that just a normal Stone Island t-shirt you got on now? I'm a big fan of Stone
Yeah,
Island.
it's just from I was actually in pajamas and I threw this shirt on right before we hopped on for our video chat. But I got this from the store opening in LA. But I don't know if you can tell, but they actually offset the screen printing because it's actually not very centered. It's kind of like a little thing that kind of annoys me,
It's like
but whatever.
a little bit over to the right on the t-shirt.
Yeah, yeah, should be a little bit more centered.
And you got that on it's not on Fairfax. What's the street? It's over that way, but
Yeah. La Brea. La Brea.
La Brea. It's an awesome store there. I'm a big fan. I mean, look, I'm wearing this is our soccer team, Harvard
Yeah,
Heights
nice
FC.
Umbro. Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Little Umbro flex. But of course, do you know a bit about Stone Island? It's the kind of the label of choice for football hooligans where I'm from.
Really? I knew there was a
Yeah,
lot of like Italian uncles and stuff like that wear it. It's like more so of a mature brand over in Europe,
yeah.
but like
I think it goes like football hooligans, Italian uncles, the rest of us for
got
Stone
it.
Island.
Great.
Yeah. So look, how have you been? Thanks for agreeing to jump on. We finally got hold of you. It's definitely been a reoccurring theme over the last few months with us and our guests and postponing, rescheduling, all the buzzwords, pivoting, hearing that one a
Hmm.
lot. But awesome that you found time. And yeah, how's life been going in 2020?
Ah, well, I think very high highs and very low lows.
Yeah.
That's the best way to be able to put it. And I think like emotionally, mentally, that can be like what I've been just doing 180s. And I'm pretty resilient for the most part. I'm quick to adapt, like not sit and sulk and just like keep it going. But I've been very mentally spread thin from work mainly since February.
Yeah.
So before COVID, and then COVID, and then all this crazy, and then the riots, and then BLM, and then like some other personal stuff, and it's just been like, oh my god, just it's hard to find time for yourself, and it's hard to say no a lot of times for work because you don't want to come off like a bitch or too busy. But I'm much more refreshed now. I kind of was planning on taking the whole month of June off away from my desk, but that didn't really happen. Was able to get like a sweet week in, and yeah, it was good. Just get out to nature, just have some fresh air, just have a change of pace, and not wake up to the news or Instagram or sounds of sirens and all that crazy stuff. I think your body holds on to a lot of that stress and anxiety. But yeah, much better. Back at my desk, ready to go, answering all the old emails that have been on snooze for quite some time, and now I'm here. And you guys were the first ones I hit up when I was like back at my desk. I was like, hey guys, ready to go. Let's get this.
Yes. Forget all the big money jobs that Sophia's got. She was like, I got to get on that podcast. We're starting to get some listeners actually now. We're starting to accumulate a fan base. But look, that's great that you managed to get some time off. And I mean, how are you with the highs and lows that you mentioned right at the start there? Because I am definitely someone historically who gets so kind of swept up with the highs and with the lows. Like they really take hold of me. But I think recently I've, set a real intention to kind of stay like as neutral as possible. But are you someone that just, do you do that, or will the things around you just really take hold of you?
I think a little bit of both. So I'm like born and raised in New York, where every day is a fight against the city and some shit's happening. So you have to maintain your calm, maintain your cool, maintain like, is this worth my time and energy to get pissed off about, or just keep it trucking? And I'd say this season particularly, the pendulum swing has been way more dramatic. And I think everything's a great lesson, a great opportunity to gain that self-awareness and just find that grounding of what that means for you. And I've kind of experienced the same, I call it like kind of the biochemistry and the hormones and that feeling time and time again in my life before, whether I took on way too many jobs. I'm like, fuck, this is fucking crazy. I'm losing my shit. I'm assuming I can curse on this podcast. Sorry.
Of course, we encourage it. We actively encourage it.
Oh, good, great. I'll be a perfect fit. But yeah, there's been times of that, or where I'm way past my threshold, and I'm like, damn, next time I have to like be more mindful, not overcommit myself because I'm losing my mind right now. But I think this season it was more obviously external things. So you have to like mentally just, be mindful of how much you want to give of your own energy into everything that's happening out there. Of course, you want to pay homage and respect and be mindful and aware, but it's also like at some point you also have to completely shut it off to just. I've been reading this book. It's by a guy named Joe Dispenza. Do I have it? Oh, here's the one that I've been reading.
Look at that.
One of them. It's called Becoming Supernatural. And I was actually going to major in biology before I decided to pursue the arts, believe it or not. Huge biology nerd. I'm really into neuroscience, biochemistry, body hacking, understanding the science behind our bodies so that I can do more and perform at my best. I'm obsessed with sleep cycles, timing my sleep, and figuring out all the different ways I can hack myself so that I can be at my most creative peak all the time.
Wow.
But this book has been really helpful just to get into a bit of like quantum physics and quantum energy fields and how we can actually perceive life around us. This is like a bit like super crazy. I watched an episode of like Pharmacotopia or something that's on Vice, where that guy tries all the different drugs.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, vaguely.
Anyways, I've never been someone who does like hard drugs or anything like that, but I understand the thinking when people are super high and they're just like, everything is a conspiracy and the government's just trying to do this. And I totally get that. Like, I'm super into, I think everything from like race, gender, all this crazy stuff is just human-made, man-made separation. And how can we, if we connect with, I don't know, higher purpose, higher intention, joy, and the vibrations of love and stuff like that, and how much more we can accomplish and actually, I don't know, this is super woo-woo, but it's like, not be so grounded by the bullshit.
Yeah, but I love woo-woo. I'm a massive fan of woo-woo. And isn't it funny, do you find this as well? Like kind of, spiritual readings and like teachings, philosophies, been around for so long. But what I've noticed, everything you were just talking about, I'm like, yes, love it. But it's
you got to check out this guy's stuff though.
Yeah, hold up that book again, because I'm going to read this book because
There's a book before this that you should read, which I'll email you after. But it's really great. This one's a little really far woo-woo. There's another one that he has that's a little bit more grounded, but this one is like
Becoming Supernatural. But isn't it funny though, Sophia, that us little human beings, this is the way I see it anyway, we've wandered off so far from, being connected to everyone and everything around us, that we find ourselves in a time where like we almost have to refer back to this stuff, which for me, as like woo-woo or something like that. And we almost have to protect our opinion on it, because, if you start talking about this kind of thing, we're talking about an awesome book, which is just really cutting through made up bullshit, as you say, of like concepts, money, concrete fucking jobs and relationships, marriage, all of that. It's cutting through that. But because of where we are, we have to kind of like refer to it as something really unusual.
And it can be much, and I get it. And that's why I was like, it's a bit woo-woo, because you never know who where your audience is at, right? Yeah. Because you don't want to feel like you're shoving down this like hyper spiritual stuff if they're not ready to receive. But it's I think one step at a time. Everyone gets to their own like walk where they're like, I think I need something new, and I think it's good to just let people know what resources are out there, because there's some really over the top woo-woo shit there. I'm just like, oh God. Like, do you follow any of the Stephen Greer stuff?
No.
The CE5? It's just contacting aliens. I have people in my life who contact aliens on their free time, and they're
these
for it. They're really into
these
this
people.
shit. Yeah. My business partner for Common Ace. She's really into. She's the one that put me onto this stuff. But
what's her name, and what, in a nutshell, how is she contacting aliens?
Her name's Rami Samuel. She's like really deep into the conspiracy wormholes and just loves getting into all of that. She put me onto this documentary called Unacknowledged on Netflix. Highly recommend it. It's very factual based, not so much like weird concept pictures of green aliens and shit like that. But it's just, she's very much more highly spiritual, energetic, into like the energies and the crystals and the blah, blah, blah. I grew up Christian, so I understand the spiritual connection in terms of faith. I think there's just so much information out there. And I think organically, naturally, when that curiosity leads you to open up and pursue it, there's a lot out there. And if anyone studies the universe, just in terms of where Earth sits, it's like, hello, there's probably something out there. Whether or not you want to try to talk to them is, another task at hand.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely
Make contact, so they call it.
Make contact. I mean, I would be up for it totally if any aliens happen to be listening, Sophia.
I'll send you some links.
Send me the links to the app so I can start communicating with aliens.
There you go.
But look, I love this way of not even thinking, because I suppose that's what we're talking about. Sometimes it's going beyond thinking. Sometimes I think that thinking is kind of what gets us in all these crazy messes in the first place, people overthinking it. But these kinds of conversations I just find so cathartic and therapeutic, because I was talking to someone else actually the other day, and they were talking about depression, like someone they knew had depression. And obviously I'm not an expert, so I wasn't trying to give this person any advice, but they were just saying how this other person who was really depressed, the limit of their kind of view on it is like what medication they can get from the doctor, which I hear that kind of conversation so much, and it blows my mind that a lot of people will be thinking, okay, if I feel bad or sad or there's something wrong with me, maybe one of the only options I've got is like a fucking drug, that will like tip the balance, rather than other options that we could start talking about now, like just kind of understanding why you might be like that in the first place, or feel like that in the first place.
I think you mentioned a great point, which we kind of talked on, which is the fact that humans used to be in nature, right? We used to live in villages and be raised by, our loved ones that were always around us. And we were with our kind, we were with our people, and we lived off of the land, meaning we were healed by the land. The land was what brought us life. And it's not until we get into kind of the Western world now more than ever, especially in America, it's like the pharmaceutical industry. What are the chances that pharmaceuticals totally go hand in hand with nutrition? There's synergies there that are very undeniable. And so it's like the more sicker you are, the more you'll pursue. I mean, even if you get into like the whole corona stuff that's happening as well, it's like people have actually had it and healed themselves through holistic options, but they want to remove and keep that type of information away from, I don't know, YouTube or vaccinations and stuff like that, and leave room for that. So I mean, it's a bit like woo-woo, controversial, depends on what you want to believe in. I mean, I literally just went to did some social distancing for July 4th at a friend's house, and they bought groceries and they soaked everything, all the fruits and vegetables, fully in soap on their sink. Alcohol sprayed their wallets, their phones, and I was just looking at them like, oh my God, we don't do that. And I was asking my husband, I'm like, are we fucking up by not doing this? But I'm also, I don't know, I'm also just like, not that I'm not practicing all those things. I think there's a level of hyper paranoia, and also unfortunately we're really realizing that we can't trust the information that's being shared with us, clearly, because the WHO, everything, World Health, every few weeks there's something completely different that kind of is incorrect from what they mentioned weeks before. And so of course it's being mindful and being considerate of everyone around us and those that are more sensitive to things, but also don't like continuously live in fear as well and letting that dominate your life. So I don't know. I think everyone's striking their own balance, right?
Yeah, for real. I mean, I definitely at a time was washing all the, or disinfecting all the bloody groceries. I live with my girlfriend. I've got to be honest, it was more like her. She wanted to do it more than I did, but I went along. But bloody hell, it's already long enough of an ordeal to, you know, go to the store, buy your groceries. Sophia, if you've then got to go through, you know, 4, 5, 6 bags of this stuff.
Wipe everything down. Don't put the bags on the counter. Do not put it on the counter because they have the germs. I mean, it makes zero sense to me. How is it that people are going into a restaurant right now? They can eat with their masks down, but then if they're walking through the restaurant to the restroom, they have to keep the mask. A lot of it is just a little like crazy, but it's, again, I need to remind myself to respect other people who, you know, might whatever be more sensitive to these things. So it's a little crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I've gone back into the gym, and a few people have been like, "You're crazy, like that's irresponsible." But honestly, for me, it's essential business at this point, or an essential part of my routine, because I was just going crazy without it. Like, and I tried to kind of work out from home, I just couldn't do it. So look, the gym opened back up. Go down to Equinox. They've got their kind of they've got a very intense regime before you get in there. You've now got to wear plastic gloves, like latex gloves, for your whole the whole time you're in there, which is like you did. I went in there and you didn't have to do that for a bit, and then they were like, "Okay, now you've got to wear gloves." And I was just thinking, so I wore the gloves. Right? And I'm thinking, this is worse. This is worse because before, when I wasn't wearing the gloves and I just had my hands, I was cleaning everything, periodically going to the bathroom, washing my hands, going to the sanitizer, sanitizing my hands. Now that I've got gloves on, I'm not doing any of that shit because I'm not washing my hands with gloves on. And so I was just like, I'm probably picking up more germs, aren't I?
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes if you just sit and think about it, it just doesn't add up. Like the eating at the restaurant thing, groceries. I went to Sprouts yesterday. Everything's in fucking plastic bags again. What the fuck? We literally just took like 20 steps back in reverse again. And it's like, okay, Sprouts will let you bring your bags, but sometimes you go to like Whole Foods, you can't bring your bags. Do you realize how crazy that sounds? I'm already picking everything off of the shelves with my hands, which you then are scanning on your machine with your gloves, but I'm touching it, but I can't actually bag my own groceries. Like, and then there was another time they were like, oh, you can't bag here. You can put everything in your cart, but you got to go outside to bag it over there. I'm like, fine, rules, regulations, I get it. But in my head, it's like, everyone's making this shit up. They're making this shit up as they go. It's really made up as they go. They don't actually fully understand how the virus works. They fully understand, and they're just making it up as they go. And we are unfortunately have to follow. Yeah. So
I mean, look, like disclaimer. I'm sure you are too. Like, I'm doing what I'm told, but I 1,000% agree with what you're saying. It does just literally feel like someone's going, all right, so what's next? This sounds like a good idea. Cool, let's make that fucking rule.
We have people live in fear more, so that when we come out with a fucking vaccine or some pharmaceutical pill to fix your shit, everyone will flock to that. I don't know. It's kind of stupid.
Oh, but look, that's what I wanted to ask you. Talk me through. You mentioned sleep cycles. Yeah. I'm kind of into that. What are your findings? And did you have an issue with sleep as a creative person that you've corrected? Because I kind of did. So I can talk about mine after you talk about yours.
So mine wasn't necessarily a lack of sleep. My internal dialogue has always been too much. I literally just slept 10 hours today. I set an alarm for 7 something, could not fucking get up, and I was like, fuck this shit, I'm gonna sleep in a little bit more. Why am I trying to fight myself? I think now more than ever with quarantine, of course, like if you have young children it's different, but just listening to your body more. I think it started with that, and then I stumbled upon educational resources for it. There's this one guy I'm obsessed with. His name's Dr. Michael Bruce. They call him the sleep doctor. He has this whole approach to chronotypes, which are your sleep profiles. They're hormonal and they're hereditary. When I first heard those words, I was like, holy shit, because all the women in my family, we sleep like crazy. I usually need 10 to 12 hours of sleep in order to function. Otherwise, I'm like someone who's hungover. Like I just can't answer emails. I'm not creative. I'm not a useful person on this being if I don't get my sleep. But you know what our culture tells us, early bird gets the worm, people who wake up early, they're more accomplished, young entrepreneurs, or you're more successful if you wake up early. And there's also this opposite dialogue, which is when you sleep more, you're lazy, you're more, well, so there was this always weird, like, conflicting internal dialogue, like, oh, I have to try to be like this. And when I actually started to learn about the science, I realized this is just my chemistry. And if I lean into my body's natural makeup and chemistry, I don't need to fight all of this society bullshit. If I lean into my own chemistry, I can actually just excel way farther and faster. So I started reading into the chronotypes, and it's all about a lot of different hormones, but mainly, like, obviously your melatonin levels throughout the entire day. And you learn about your circadian rhythm and how electronic devices like the blue light affects your melatonin and all that stuff that we kind of know, but you actually see the perfect symphony of how our body works within a 24-hour cycle. And when you actually understand what your chronotype is, you can go on his website, you can take a little quiz, and he tells you to buy his book, whatever. But if you really look into it, it's very accurate, right? It wasn't until, couple centuries ago, actually, I don't even know the date, but essentially, long story short, we used to rise when the sun rose, we used to sleep when the sun set, majority of the time, until we got like candles and stuff like that. But even on the spectrum of light, right? Spectrum of light is rainbow. Red and yellow, orange light is natural from the sun. Blue and white light, which is far end of the other spectrum, has the highest frequency of light, and it penetrates the deepest in our retina. So it actually affects our actual retina, which is a naturally degenerating muscle, which is the whole thing. So our generation is actually the first generation that's stuck in front of a computer all day for hours and hours at a time. Then we look on this, then we're watching TV, then we're wondering why we can't sleep, and then we're drinking coffee and, or drip coffee at home and all this other shit. So, and it's like, how are we not out of whack?
Yeah. But so is this kind of, the stuff you're talking about, is it saying that actually the light, like, that's being emitted from these screens, absorbing that particular light, which is like the blue light, which is not so great, right? That contributes to us kind of not being able to sleep.
We can't get REM sleep as well. We can't hit our REM sleep as well. And there's more. I mean, I can get it.
Yeah, no, I bet.
One more little tidbit. There's one more thing called cerebral spinal fluid. It's a type of fluid that runs through our nervous system, from our spine to our brain, blah, blah, blah. It's only through a certain stage of sleep, REM sleep, where the fluid actually floods our brain and actually gets rid of plaque from shit that has built up during a work day. When you've just run through your entire brain all day, you're so exhausted, you get one solid night of sleep, you're almost like a new person. It's that. So all that our body is designed to do is heal itself constantly, and how important sleep is within that component, and how your actual natural hereditary genetic makeup and all of that actually contributes to your sleep cycle. So the humans are actually the only species that deprives ourselves of sleep, meaning around 2-3 o'clock, we're tired, we kind of want to take a quick nap, but we keep pushing through. Or we're running a deadline where we work in production because of an agency, and so we don't sleep. So it's striking that balance. And there's a lot of healing that we can do for our bodies through practicing chronotherapy, through sleep, and how much we can heal our bodies of illnesses and sicknesses and our mood. It's amazing. And it's super slept on. I'll end with that.
But look, it all makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, it like intertwines perfectly with everything we're talking about. It's like getting these natural things right before, like taking drugs or turning to medication or what your job's saying or your relationship. It's like there's other things we can do. Even going back to what we're talking about with coronavirus, like being very healthy, just being like the healthiest version of yourself, apparently, and it makes sense that it is a very good defense mechanism against it. But of course, our attention's taken away with like the masks and, the gloves and everything like that. But what I'm interested to know on the sleep thing is, so it's kind of widely like reported or recommended that people should get like 8 hours of sleep, right? So that's kind of, is that bullshit? And is there like, you know, an amount of sleep that's considered too much and also an amount of sleep that's considered too little? Like, what are the parameters that people operate in?
So I've actually figured out a way to hack myself. If I need to catch an early flight or time zones and stuff like that, 90-minute, it's all 90-minute cycles. I'm obviously not a super expert. This is just regurgitated information, but it's 90-minute cycles as far as like sleep, REM, and when our brain goes through the, I don't know the order of it, but the meditative phases of in terms of brain waves. So it all works in 90-minute cycles. So it's up to how many 90-minute cycles you need. Meaning, if you get woken up, if an alarm or something wakes you up in the middle of your cycle, you're fucking tired and you physically feel exhausted. You're mentally just like, whoa, like you barely know what's going on. That's because it disrupted you in the middle of that cycle versus catching you at the end of that cycle. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, like
it's
woken you up from your like deepest part of your sleep, rather than like when you kind of like you're either just sinking into it or just coming out of it. It's like you're bang in the middle.
Right. And when that happens, your brain wave might be at a certain state, and then boom, you have to like wake up and be like, whoa, what's going on, and be aware versus, so you're kind of transitioning from your dream state. So I actually started experimenting with this, my bedtime app in my iPhone. So you have a little bedtime app, and what you do is you set it to the 90-minute cycle. So that's an hour and a half, right? So if you get 6 hours versus 7.5 hours versus 9 hours versus 10.5 hours. So you can actually do the math yourself. So you should try it and actually see. I kind of timed mine a little bit perfectly to 9 hours, kind of 8 hours and 45 minutes. And you actually start to see that. So if I need to wake up at 5 a.m. to catch a flight, how can I actually reverse that cycle that I usually sleep in? And that's been a really interesting way for me to hack. So when they traditionally say 7 to 8 hours of sleep is a healthy amount of sleep, it's not that that's not true. But again, your body's different from mine. You know, everyone's is a little bit different. So work based on your body. Understand the science, to actually educate yourself on the science, experiment and see how your body responds to. I think there obviously is such a thing as too much sleep. Obviously, some people have physical like repercussions from that. I kind of don't. I actually love it, thrive in it. But again, it's not one answer for all. Everyone just needs to just go out there, try it for themselves. We've been told, even just wrapping up everything we talked about, like we've been told so many things. We've been told so many things that this pill will fix it. We've been told that early risers are the more successful people. We've been told, 7 to 8 hours. Why not educate yourself and then go try it for yourself and see what actually works for you?
I'm with you. Of course I'm with you. I think it's definitely sound advice to look inward once in a while, not constantly be looking around for like the latest thing and the fad that's going to kind of do this, that, and the other for you. That's brilliant. You should bring out your own app, Sophia. You could have a lot going on with it. Sleep cycles.
Well, you know what? I have a health and wellness platform that I've been working on for the past 7 years.
I wanted to talk about this with you. What's it called? That's Undo Ordinary, right? Yeah.
Yep. And I have a business partner that works on it with me as well. And it really started from me going to the gym. And the only reason why I started going to the gym was because I started to get shooting pains in my neck, my shoulders, my wrists from sitting at a computer all day, every day for just nonstop, just working, being creative, right? And going to the gym got me into eating better, and eating better got me into going into all these new spaces to shop, to try foods and all that stuff. And what I started to notice was that there was a huge disparity with just diversity and just the places I would have to go in order to work out or eat better. And I noticed a lot of times I'd be the only person of color there, and it would just kind of be this interesting observation. And then when I met my business partner, she was on her own creative journey as well as a marathoner, runner. And so we are both creatives. We're kind of yin and yang, where she's more of the 3D and I'm more of the 2D designer. And we meet in between with art direction and execution. But we started this publication, and we are literally 9 issues deep. And we actually have an entire one on sleep. So we have a different theme for every single issue. But our whole goal is to repackage the way we talk about health and wellness, and really package it for the creative community. Because she kind of came from fashion music, I came from more, street art, streetwear-ish scene. No one in these communities talk about health and wellness in a real way that's applicable, desirable, sexy, interesting, and we wanted to change that. And I think that this has been a great experience and journey to just really see how the power of art and design can completely transform and propel messaging in so many different types of ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I mean, I think it's so important as well for creative people to really get their heads into like what you're talking about. Like, this seems very necessary, health and wellness, because I think like creativity is kind of born from the same places that I imagine you're talking about a lot in your magazine. So if you want to be like, creativity, I think is kind of like, what's the best way to describe it? But I guess like handed to you from somewhere else. That's the way I kind of see it. You're not really getting good at creativity by kind of like practicing with your brain, I'd say. It's more about how you can kind of
comes from within.
Yeah, it comes from within, how you can feel. And, I think that like creative ideas come from, moments of peace and calm, and in between moments of stress, so I think it's super important for me anyway, as a creative person, to be in tune with the kind of thing that you're talking about with Undo Ordinary. But that's
and
dope.
Just to be a super nerd to that point, please. As well, what you just mentioned is all supported by science. So how can you create an optimal hormonal state so that you are getting the cocktail of hormones and juices for you to be creative? You can actually recreate those settings for yourself. When we're in fight or flight, stress mode and all that stuff, those hormones actually, they all kind of go up and down. They actually go against all the hormones needed for creativity.
Yeah, wow.
So when you understand the science, you can actually create these optimal environments for yourself to be able to work better and create more. And that's what we wanted to do, is to be able to package that type of education and those resources.
No, I love that. And because that's what I've always thought about, the kind of spiritual stuff that I like reading, and the stuff that resonates the most with me is always the stuff where I'm reading it and I'm like, no, this is not woo-woo in any way. I mean, it could sound like that, but it's very, very logical. I mean, you talked about quantum physics earlier, and for me, I fucking love quantum physics. But when I read about quantum physics, I'm just like, yeah, this is like an amazing spirituality book. You know what I mean? But it's scientific.
You're gonna love this guy's book that I send over to you. You're gonna lose your shit. It's all quantum physics. It makes you be like, so nothing really exists and we don't really fucking matter and this is just made up. Great. What's next?
I was having that conversation with someone else recently, and I was like, yeah, my general outlook on reality, like, the tamest thing I believe is, I guess, kind of like a, like maybe a kind of Buddhist outlook, which is everything is connected and is essentially like one organism, so life energy is something that flows through everyone, but it's one thing, and it kind of is, breathes into just all organisms, objects, inanimate, whatever they are, and it's all one thing. But my most extreme like idea on reality is I guess like a Hindu belief that it's all just virtual reality. It's all a kind of theater production,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Virtual reality. That's a great way to put it. That's actually what we've constructed for ourselves in terms of humans. Anytime you're on Instagram looking at some fucking crazy insanity, VR. Welcome to The Sims.
I mean, we're literally in there. But when I like to think like the virtual reality I'm talking about is more like, it's just an occurrence. It's not like Elon Musk will talk about life being like virtual reality, but when he's saying it, I'm pretty sure he just thinks there's these weird, like these weird
He's thinking
dudes.
the Matrix. He's thinking the Matrix, where we plug our fucking necks.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, we're never going to find out and we'll never know. But I like to think that it's just something that's like occurring and happening. It's not like it's planned from somewhere else. And they're like, right, what we're going to do, we're going to make a planet Earth. We're going to have all these fucking people running around. It's more just like an occurrence. But that's really interesting with Undo Ordinary. And is it not just a magazine? I didn't mean that to sound like it isn't a lot. That's incredible. But do you do other things with that? Like, what's Undo Lab? Is there a kind of like
Yeah,
studio
I think
section to it, right?
Yeah, it started out, Undo really started out as runs, like runs in New York City. This was before like Nike did Nike Training Club, and run clubs were like a huge thing, and like in the trendy public space. But we had started as a run club, asking the homies, hey, you want to come run? It was a lot of like creative people, and it was very organic. And then, you know, we had this very interesting community of this bridge between fashion, creatives, and also health and wellness folks. How can we actually repackage this messaging into a website? It's just storytelling and branding, right? So it started the publication, kind of kept it going. But the events element was always really important. So bigger brands started to tap us into our community. We had worked with Airbnb when they had an entire activation for the New York City Marathon. So we did we operated almost as an agency in order to curate and create different activations that they could have in each borough of New York City. So we understand, I mean, we've also worked as vendors individually as professionals for these bigger corporate brands like Nike and Adidas and so forth, but also seen the disconnects within agency and actually how things are activated and brought into the community. And we also are the people on foot, on the ground, meeting these people, living this life of being creative and also going to the gym and shopping at these cool brands and so forth. And so it very organically became this kind of agency service connectivity. We chimed into research and development. You know, my business partner had worked with Adidas on sports bra performance design, just because there's a huge lack in great product design within that space for all the brands. And so it's been a very organic dialogue in terms of things we're obviously nerds and obsessed about. And it's opened obviously a lot of great work opportunities for us and also creators within our space, not just like influencers with huge metrics and numbers, but actual amazing creators that we've worked with. And so, yeah, it starts with the publication. And then also just events and community and bringing people together for the greater good. When the election had happened as well, you know, a lot of people were taking to social media as far as how they feel, all the forums, every time you turn on your phone, there was something, or Facebook, and everyone was doing all these panels of people talking. And so what we started was a talk series called Come Talk to We. And it's kind of like a play off of Jodeci's song, Come and Talk to Me. And so we brought everyone together, friends, family, whatever. And it was just almost not a town hall, but that's kind of what it was. We brought everyone together to just talk. And from 2007 to now, almost every few months, there was something crazy that happened in the news, from shootings to, you know, the president to just everything, even BLM and stuff like that. And so we wanted to offer space for humans to connect and humans to actually talk to each other and hear pauses. And, you know, even with the Me Too movement, actually allow space for people to unapologetically feel safe to be able to speak their opinion in a very respectful way. And so we had been hosting these events every single month in New York and in Los Angeles, just to get people together. Sometimes we had a big gathering, sometimes we had smaller gatherings, sometimes it even turned into networking work opportunities because of the type of people we had in the room. And so it was just, again, connecting humans back to our purpose and like reasoning for being here on earth. How can we all, because even with panels, it was like elevated people, the entire audience. It's like, I think the audience probably has a lot to share in terms of this topic, and how can we actually all collaborate and learn all together. And then we had a few digital ones since COVID. And yeah, and it's been a kind of an ongoing thing. We're working on issue 10 of our magazine that's themed survivalism, ironically enough. We actually were working on it before COVID hit for quite a few months. And so it's all about survivalism. It's all about just where we're going to go from here, whether it's the planet Do we know how to sow our own seeds? Are we equipped with the things that our ancestors were equipped with? How can we learn from them? How can we learn from nature? What are some tips that animals do? Like, I have 2 dogs, and I have to say 2 things I learned from them was the first thing. Do you have any pets, by the way?
Yeah, I've got a little Persian cat locked in the bathroom right now because he's crazy.
Oh my God, I love Persians.
I'll get him out in a sec.
So what dogs do is that the first thing they do when they lay down, when they make their little bed area, they do a big exhale. And it sounds like all of the stress from the day is just released. And I was just thinking, that is that's such a small thing, but so beautiful. And like, that's something I'm going to try to do every time I'm in like a resting state. Another thing I picked up from them was, what was it? The stretch. Anytime they get up from a rested state, the first thing they do is a full body stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And then they continue and do whatever the hell it is. And I was like, you know what, that's interesting. Stretch breaks. Like, obviously stretch breaks are important for humans, but it's just interesting to see animals and the little things that we can actually learn from them.
Yeah, it is like when they get up from a little rest and stretch it out, it is like they're just stretching that tension away, and then they just get on with their day. But that's so funny. I've never really like acknowledged the fact that they, you know, when a dog walks into a corner, sits down. My little cat does the same thing, but that's brilliant. I'm gonna do that one, Sophia. Have you been doing that?
Yeah.
Did you do it out in public? Just if you sit down on the metro or something, you're like.
Sometimes like I started doing these really big yawns. I don't know if this happened naturally, but like just fully relax your jaw and just do a big audible yawn. I've always kind of done it, but now more than ever, I don't even try to hold it back. Have you ever tried to hold in a yawn? It's not a comfortable feeling. Yeah. What would happen if we totally leaned into that? If we actually listened to our bodies and fully leaned into our bodies? No, but anyway, I did that once in New York. I did a full, big, unnecessarily loud, audible yawn on a street corner. We were waiting for the light to change, and like definitely all the people around me stared at me like, fuck. I was like, I didn't realize I was doing it so loud because I had headphones on and everything, but
yeah. But look, there's a lot of things like, I mean, maybe it's not quite on the same level, but even when you feel like you feel a bit uncomfortable, you've got a burp or something like that, like just any kind of bodily like function or noise, like we're definitely kind of indoctrinated into this idea. You've got to like hold that down. You can't let anyone know that you're like a breathing, bleeding fucking human. Do you know what I mean? We have to be clinical, clean. Yeah, that's crazy to think about. Yeah, look, this whole Undo Ordinary, I think it sounds amazing, and it sounds like really nourishing. And so those town halls, they're like, that's kind of like a private thing, right? That's not like a podcast or.
No, they've been very open to the public. There's been a lot of questions about, hey, do you guys pre-record this? Do you do whatever? But it almost defeats the purpose of it, because the whole point was you have to physically be there. That's the problem. Well, now it's different, right? But
you still got to be there in the moment, you know?
In the moment, and feel the energy in the room, and feel what that person just said, and energetically where they were coming from, and understanding their pause versus the very binary social media, like it just doesn't cut it. We know that.
Yeah, no, it does. It sounds very therapeutic. I mean, it reminds me, like I've before have been in like, you know, like recovery-based programs where it's a similar idea. You know, you're going in, sitting with a bunch of people and just kind of like, sometimes it's quite positive, you know, but sometimes it's not positive. Like people are kind of really on the edge, but just to create a space where people feel comfortable to just let it out is so therapeutic and so powerful, either just, you know, doing it yourself or listening to it. So that's incredible. I think that's super important.
And no judgment. And you're not trying to be friends with these people. It's just we're humans. We're all here on the same page. We're all here on the same level. We're all experiencing this. Open floor. I think,
and I mean, I'm sure you'll probably be able to tell me, but I would imagine for a lot of people who haven't gone to it before, their first time they come to a space like that you've created, they're like, fucking hell, like this is exactly what I needed. Because again, you know, we were saying about you can't like burp on the metro, you shouldn't yawn in public, people will look at you weird. That's an extension of exactly what we're talking about. You know, there isn't really space to just be yourself, like your true self, and just fucking like let it out. So that's really fucking cool. And when like, do you
nowadays
do
it's
them in
our
Los Angeles?
opinions.
Say again, sorry?
Nowadays it's our opinions, right? Because
Yeah.
we have to be mindful of what we say and how we say it. And even if you speak your own truth, that might be, God knows, you know, the worst thing you can say, and everyone will tear you down on the internet. Of course, there's good and bad to some extent, but it's also a great opportunity for education, for opposing opinions and stuff like that. But yeah, we do them. We were mainly doing that. So my business partner and I, we met in New York. We were working in New York for some time, and then we both had moved out to LA. So, and then we go back to New York a couple times a year. And so we try to host it in New York whenever we're out there. And mainly we would do it every month in LA.
Mm-hmm. And now you're doing them on Zoom because we can't sit with each other anyway.
Yeah.
Well, do let me know when there is one, if I'm allowed to join in, because I love
absolutely.
talking.
Well, they've kind of been on hold for a bit because we've mentally and emotionally been trying to wrap our heads around everything that's been going on as well. But hopefully soon we'll be picking back up.
Yeah, that's dope. And what, like, so speaking of that, everything that has been going on, I mean, with Undo Ordinary, that sounds so like super nourishing for creative people, but also maybe really good for brands as well. So like, are you working with a lot of brands? Because I mean, what I'm seeing at the minute is definitely a lot of brands are probably starting to panic from like the pandemic and losing business and thinking, fucking hell, like, you know, we really need some purpose now in order to kind of drive forward. And then everything that's happening with Black Lives Matter as well, you're just seeing a lot of like kind of good stuff popping up, but then a lot of stuff which feels really inauthentic to me, and really just kind of, yeah, inauthentic's the word. So are you kind of consulting with brands? Because the way I see it, there's a lot of, you know, brands are kind of powerful entities, but for me, they often get it so wrong, where, you know, these kind of like press release, robotic statements that, you know, just make them seem so cold and hard, like huge corporations. This is the thing that I was thinking as well. I've read so many statements from huge corporations kind of lending support to Black Lives Matter like it is the other, like it's something completely apart from them. And that just makes me think, what, by releasing this statement, are you just saying that top to bottom you are white as fuck? You know what I mean? Why are you not trying to kind of like, I get it, you're trying to lend support to a movement, but like look after your own people, your employees, your community? Like, it just seems so weird for me. So yeah, I mean, have you been having any conversations around that? Like maybe how we can bloody help brands be more helpful?
I mean, it's a very delicate space, and I think everyone needs to proactively search for where they stand in that. So, you know, my business partner on Undo, she's a Black woman, and, you know, this is something that's come up many a times, and we've discussed it. And we've also been on the forefront with many companies as well to not directly address racial injustice or disparities, but more so to allow, for us from an agency perspective, we've always wanted to bring in that diversity standpoint, as in all kind of the entire spectrum, and making sure that when we're working with creators, we're bringing in creators who are from a diverse perspective. But we're also just tired. We've been on the forefront in many ways, being the voice in this space, that we're also very emotionally drained. So we've been just trying to find some time to gather ourselves mentally and emotionally, because when you're a mental emotional wreck, as you know, you can't create, you can't lead, you can't serve people. And, you know, as a leader, I think we've recognized that more than ever, a leading voice in this space that we've occupied. I think there's a lot of voices out there, which is fantastic, that are doing great things, from highlighting you know, Black creators. That's something that I was trying to figure out what to do, because I've obviously worked a lot in the, you know, Black space as far as with music and arts and stuff like that. And, you know, I have conversations with friends that I can be very realistic about, and they can be honest with me and be like, you have to say something. What are you doing? What are you going to say? And I'm not a writer. There's a reason why I draw all the time, that words are not my main thing. And I found my voice through sharing other creators who were creating art that are not triggering and trauma driven art, that I felt like pays homage to everything that's happening in our community. So that's been really important. And I'm also just a big believer of not everything needs to be amplified fully on social media as well. Even though this time it's different, it's important to say, to kind of display, because sometimes it can be over performative, which I'm not into. Obviously, we see that from the brands. But even from a personal perspective, to continue to listen, to continue to educate yourself, continue to support and help amplify those voices as much as possible is important. So if you're hiring, if you're working with other people, to make sure to keep that in mind. Just because it runs really deep, like all of that history, it's very, very deep when in America especially. And my business partner on Common Eighth, she's Australian, and she's just like, I don't really get it. And I'm trying to, not that she doesn't get it, but just like how intense it is and why people are so angry, and that why we need to take a stand and we need to make our voice known in this space. Because I'm sure for the rest of the world, it's a little bit different looking at America right now. But yeah, I think we're for Undo right now, we're kind of taking a break. We've been very proactive voices in the space for quite some time, for a very long time. And we're just trying to gather ourselves and see where we go from there. But there has been like a weekly newsletter we put out to support Black businesses that, my business partner and I have powered or aligned with in the past. So we're just trying to make it very organic and not too forced, since there's already so much action and oversaturation in that.
No, yeah, there is. And a lot, obviously, like social media in times like this is obviously overriding. You have to acknowledge the good that it does in spreading awareness, which is brilliant. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of what I got from you there, and I agree, is that social media can also often just become a bit of a kind of easy fix for the mind, so you can do your post, you know what I mean, and feel like, well, look, I've posted my stance, so everyone knows, so that's kind of me. But I think a lot of the work, or all of the work, really that's it. Social media should just be used to reflect reality, not create its own reality. And I think that's definitely a danger of a kind of false reality being created sometimes. But yeah, look, that sounds awesome. And I can't wait till it kicks back off again, mainly because I want to come to one of the town halls and talk to some people. But look, can we talk about Common Ace as well?
Yeah.
Because if you just want to let everyone know like what it is, I know what it is. I fucking love it. So I want to get into it. But yeah, I'm not going to explain your thing.
Yeah, so Common Ace is a new venture that I started. It's primarily a tech platform, but we are designed to be a one-stop shop for women's sneakers. That's our North Star right now. It's really about creating accessibility. Yeah, it's really about creating accessibility in this space. That's why we're starting off with sneakers, because I grew up collecting sneakers myself in New York, and also now, and have worked in the sneaker space, and just know that there's just been so much conversation over the years as far as being a female, women's products, streetwear, where women play into all that. And I think it's really important we've had a lot of great conversations. There's a huge, amazing dialogue that's been sparked for quite some time now, and let's actually turn that into action. Yeah. And accessibility has always been a huge issue.
Always.
And yeah, especially for women, because
that's what I mean. Even from like a male's perspective, and sorry to talk over you, which plays completely against what we're trying to talk about here. But even it's only because like this is something that I've noticed. And to be honest with you, Sophia, I can't believe that no one has like done this before or done it properly, because since forever I've been having this same conversation with girls where they're like, for fuck's sake, all like, you know, your sneakers come out, Jimmy, and they're awesome and they're grey and black and, you know, like dope looking and neon. And then ours come out and they're all pink.
Pink and orange and lavender.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, fuck, that's so true. So
And
yeah.
even just getting sizes and even the accessibility of shopping, because I have to go on all these different websites with all these different tabs,
Right.
try to see if they have my size, or I can go to these nicer, fancier websites, or like a StockX and go, but I'm not trying to spend $300-400 on a pair of sneakers that I slept on but look really cute. And there's a whole bunch of science that goes behind how women shop and why we shop differently from men. Plus, you find the marriage of design with great UI, great UX that actually works with your consumer and your customer and their actual behavior. I mean, it's a win-win. Plus, I mean, there's just so many pluses and pluses and pluses, because obviously I've worked in the space, I've harnessed the relationships from a big brand perspective, but also from a creator community perspective, and also just someone who's proactively a voice within the space, whether it's sneakers, design, arts, culture, and streetwear, to just continue to just hopefully be a beacon of light in this space. And why not create a product that's really speaking to the things that you're saying, that's actually helping the community? Because it's like, for us, by us, you know, for women, by women. We're actually, my business partner works at KISS. You know, I've worked.
She works
in
at KISS, sorry.
Yeah, KISS in West, in Hollywood. Yeah, Hollywood. But yeah, and so we understand, you know, as soon as a female shopper comes in, she's looking at the male shoes. Of course, it doesn't come in her size, and it's just like, there has to be a better way, and it's not that difficult. It just really took the right people and the right vision to bring it to life. So we're really excited. I mean, the future is very bright for us, so we're excited to see where things go.
Yeah, but like, why are we in this situation? Because, you know, obviously, if you look at just like shopping on the whole, right, it's not like, there's some kind of like, there's an equal amount of like marketing spend, right? I imagine on trying to market stuff to men, to market stuff to women, everyone in between. Well, maybe not everyone in between, but let's go men and women. But why is it, you know, are people just sort of like aligning with ancient ideas that like, no, boys like sports and streetwear, so that's them. And then girls, it's going to be like beauty products, makeup, dresses, and high heels. It like, is that what's going on? And then anything else is kind of seen as niche? Because again, like, I'm mates with loads of women that, like, of course, they like all their beauty products, they like looking fancy and whatever it is, but they also fucking like streetwear and sneakers. Like, so to me, that tells me that it isn't like this niche little thing. There's like a real burning desire.
There's two factors here. One is you have to look at who's in charge. So one thing my business partner from Undo talks about a lot is she doesn't like to spend time clucking with the chickens if she ultimately has to report back to the rooster. So you have to look at who's in charge and who's the one who's making these bigger calls. I do believe that a lot of times women in corporations are trying to make a propelling statement and a propelling argument, but you have to look at, you know, who's in charge. That's one. The other thing that's really important, and I've learned this over the years of being in these conversations where people are complaining about why just shrink it and pink it. I know all these girls. It's because of sales. We may be in you know, key cities where streetwear thrive a lot more, or, you know, obviously with the internet, streetwear has obviously taken a whole nother trajectory and reach. However, the majority of sales in the women's market for certain types of product predominantly are maybe your pink items or your blah, blah, blah. And of course, that's going to be the case because that's what's made available to us, right? And so it's just such a new space that I think a lot of times bigger brands are scared to take the risk or not the right people in charge. And so there's a bit of those hurdles to jump through. But the really exciting thing that I'm happy to share with you is that even with working on Common Ace, we've worked on, you know, business deck and all that stuff. It's been extremely hard to find studies on women in sneakers. In fact, all the studies are women in footwear, which encompasses sandals, heels, wedges, whatever, and then sneakers for global market, North American market, including men and women. very, very little statistics are actually available specifically for women and sneakers. So what we're going to be working on is putting out our own study that we're going to be conducting, that actually states, just putting it out there, because why not? It's like, if you're really doing it for women and you're actually, female empowerment, whatever that stuff, let's actually do it. So that's what we're going to be working on for the next few months, is a formal study that's pulled to support the data that we know, that women shop differently, that if we can't decide a colorway, we'll buy multiple colorways and maybe return it and see how we feel. And we shop emotionally. Why is it that we go to certain brands, or we want to spend money when we're not feeling well and stuff like that? And really understanding the science behind all of these factors that we know innately as women, but how do we have the data to be able to support that cohesively? So, gotta work on it.
That's amazing. So with that, like with those kind of scientific studies, is the outlook there that if you get the right data, then you can kind of use that data to talk to like the right people, and your kind of service or your insight can just be like cover a bigger spectrum of the world. Like you can provide a bigger, better service for like more people or more women.
Yeah, I think that's a huge component. On top of that, we know that data exists out there, so we want to be able to support that. We've also, had opportunities to be able to talk about potentially getting investors, and we've had a ton of VCs reach out to us. But I think what's really important is, yes, this data will support our argument and our existence. But what's more important than ever is it actually supports all the women that work in streetwear. It supports all the women who have a desk job at a Foot Locker, at an Adidas, that's been trying to convince her boss and her team in order to do something. This study will empower those people who are individually in their own positions of power. Right. And then, of course, will help us in our argument if we start raving when we go down that rabbit hole. But most importantly, doing it for the culture, doing it for the community. This is our way of actually putting our money where our mouth is. So I think that's really exciting. And it just has to be done. Like, why wait? And I think a big part of it too is we're not really here to ask for permission. We're not really here to seek approval from anyone. We're doing it because we know in our hearts this is what we do, and this is what we live and breathe on a day-to-day basis. Like, I literally buy way too many things online, and it's like fucking annoying. But it's, for me as a designer, it's studying and dissecting what is it about this that makes me go back, and reflecting on my own consumer journey and my own user behavior, and applying that to our product, and hopefully being able to, have the supporting data from the community, but also a lot of science to support that.
Yeah, that's it. So like, I think I get it more than my first statement. So now if you are, like, say you are a woman who's, pretty high up at Foot Locker trying to order in some sneakers, instead of her having to talk, instead of her having to convince whoever she's got to convince with data that pretty much, as you say, it's been taken all across the whole kind of footwear spectrum, that pretty much says, no, pink is what you need to get. She can access new data by you, new science by you that will support, no, fuck that. This is the cool shit. This is what we should be buying in, and there is a market for it. So you're basically going to make all the Foot Lockers way, way cooler for women. Yeah,
that's what we're really trying to do. That's our purpose here at the end of the day. So
that's amazing. Like, I'm honestly, I'm a massive fan of that. I love the account. Everyone should follow that account, because it's as a dude, like, I'm sure a lot of those sneakers aren't in my size. Maybe they are, but it's just a fucking great account. And that is what you want to see, right? I don't know. I don't think I've ever in my life looked at something and been like, that's amazing for boys. You know what I mean? It's great, or it's not great. And
it just is. And at the end of the day, if you're really championing creativity, it doesn't matter if you're a dude or a chick or anything in between. You just style and you express yourself however you want to come forward to in the world that day. That's it.
No, I agree. Amazing. Well, look, everyone follow. What's the account, Sophia? Just Common Ace. All one word. Yeah, everyone's got to go follow that. But then, look, I guess my next inevitable question, and it kind of leads back, we've almost come full circle, is how do you not burn out? Are you cool with, we kind of touched on it, but do you thrive like kind of under pressure, doing a lot of different things? You remind me of me a little bit, just a lot further ahead in your creative journey. Someone who thrives off new challenges, but it always seems very authentic with you, by the way, and I think that's what's really important. You know, that you have these kind of ideas and things that like turn you on and excite you, but they're not just limited to like one avenue. So you do one thing and then you're like, fucking hell, I've got another idea for something cool in this direction and that direction. And you seem like the sort of person who's got that on lock. So, you know, how do you juggle it? Does it overwhelm you, or do you thrive in that kind of
I think
environment?
in the recent years, I've kind of been able to be more comfortable in my own skin and my own identity. Because for many years, since I was in college, I mean, I'm pretty sure I had ADD as a kid, and I'm sure I still do now. But, you know, when I was in school, I've always had this dialogue of like, Sophia, you're doing too much, pick one thing and be good at it. Why are you doing all these things? Or when I tell people about what I do, they get really like, I see the look in their eyes, they're kind of overwhelmed. And that's always kind of bothered me. And even working on my bio to talk about who I am and my projects. And it's like, oh, all over the place, so crazy. And I don't want it to come off as like, she doesn't know what she's doing. But in a way, what I've kind of concluded to, and I've mentioned this before, is a lot of times other people can't do it. And just because they can't do it doesn't mean you can't do it. And that's the thing. I think people want to put me in a box because it's easier for them to understand and digest. And that's great because that's pushed myself to be able to explain what is it that I do to people a little bit more, depending on who my audience is. I can kind of gauge it. But that's what I've kind of concluded. It's just because they can't do it doesn't mean I can't. And therefore I will continue to do, because this is innately who I am. It's like when we talked about creativity, this is just in you, and it just has to come out one way or another. And there's been times in my creative journey where I've tried to cap that because I felt like, oh, what would they think? Or maybe this is crazy. I'm actually going to be working on a book, which I'm really excited about.
Whoa.
It's going to be on email etiquette, because there's sitting etiquette, there's eating etiquette, there's subway etiquette, but there's never been a formal like email etiquette. I get so annoyed when people write stupid emails with too many links,
too many exclamation marks
and the exclamation mark. You don't CC the right way, or the subject line is confusing, so I have to comb through my entire Gmail to find the email because
starting a new thread unnecessarily.
And it goes on. So my dream is to create, start a new email thread every fucking time. Like, oh. Anyways, I want to make this little book. And I have to tell you, when I allowed myself to write this book, I was like, at first I was thinking, you can't write a book. You barely write well, and you're an illustrator, and that's just like, you already do way too much. Don't try to do more stuff. This is a whole new space. And then I just said, fuck it. And I literally wrote everything in like one sitting. Wow. It looks like a crazy person. Like, it's like pages on pages on pages. It just all came pouring out. So now I'm working on a copy with a copy editor to try to make it a little bit more concise. There's going to be illustrations to accompany it. I'm going to self-publish it. It's going to be this book project. And especially with my experience with Undo Ordinary, I know how to lay out books and all of that. But I think the biggest takeaway there was just like, when you actually allow yourself to get out of your own way, you'd be so surprised. And it took me a very long time, I have to be honest. And I know the feeling, but when you do, my God, like, it just comes out in full. And the dream is to have it be this little niche, like kitsch book, almost like by your Urban Outfitters checkout line or your like Strand bookstore in New York. But there's also going to be an illustrated poster edition where every person in HR can keep it on their office, and it'll be this little cult little thing that everyone kind of has, almost like their own little version of the choking victim. It'll be email etiquette. Did you break these rules? And I think I've worked on this since late last year, and I've never really touched it since the past week or so. And I think it's mainly because I've been getting really frustrated by a lot of the emails now that we're living in a very digital space. But more importantly, how important this little manual could be for corporations as well. Maybe it's a part of an employee handbook and it's like a little thing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. I have to figure it out. But at the end of the day, as long as I get my 10 hours of sleep, I'm totally fine and I can do whatever the hell I want. And I think a big part is learning to work with others, which has been really helpful with Undo Ordinary, because we definitely don't build each magazine just on our own. We have amazing copy editors, mainly volunteers that are just happy to support creators that offer their art and their time. And I think with a lot of my own work, because I do so much, it's building a team and finding the right people who are good at what they do and focus on what they're good at and what brings them joy, so that I can continue to, do all this crazy shit.
To do all these things. But that's great. And look, do you know what? I mean, a few things from all that. Firstly, that book sounds brilliant. I can't wait to get a copy of that book. I love the way that I'm sure like a lot of it is going to be really fucking funny. A lot of it is going to be really helpful and useful. And a lot of it, as you say, probably quite important for brands, so that they're not just like blundering their way through communicating with artists and offending everyone. But what's really interesting to me is I love what you were saying about just allowing yourself to do something, because that's it. You were saying that people almost project their feeling of not being able to do many things onto you. And I think that's probably a similar story for a lot of people. It's kind of like our conditioning, and that probably does come from, I don't want to offend anyone. There's nothing wrong with any job on this planet. You've got to do what you've got to do. But I suppose when you're a creative person, or if you're not a creative person, looking at someone who is creative, thinking, bloody hell, they just get to walk around all day, coming up with ideas, doing whatever the fuck they want. I have to go to work every day and kind of do seemingly the same thing again and again and again. We're kind of conditioned that is the normal thing. But that's the main thing that I love about being creative. It's the fact that it's not fucking that. You know what I mean? It isn't doing the same thing again and again. And it's actually really fun to switch it up. And when you can find a team, as you said just then that's brilliant, because you can, if you've got a bunch of people who are willing to kind of like work in all different directions and, do all these different things, then you can all do it together. And it actually makes doing a lot of stuff quite simple.
And I think our whole planet is obviously changing with workspace, workforces. I think now, especially with COVID, everyone's working virtually. It opens up the talent pool dramatically. So it'll be really interesting to see how things start to transition, and people really have to just hone in on their craft. And at the end of the day, enjoy doing what you love. And there's obviously a huge shift happening on so many different levels, but it'll be interesting to see how everyone comes out of it. Yeah, it will. It really will. You getting pissed off with Zoom yet? You getting pissed off with virtual? No, actually, I'm okay with it. I've always kind of freelanced for many years. I've worked full-time jobs as well, but majority of the time I'm very used to working at home and building a creative space for myself where I feel good and being hyper organized and I'm a total productivity nerd as well, in order to not only get my 10 hours of sleep, but figure out what to do with all the time I have left over and how I can accomplish everything I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So it's always striking that balance. And I think with COVID more than ever, it's been difficult to find that habit in striking that ebb and flow. But we can sit and complain, or we can just continue to try to problem solve and try and it doesn't work, and try and it doesn't work, and figure it out. Maybe one thing works for you for 2 weeks and then it doesn't the next forever. So I don't know.
Yeah, for real. Well, look, I think probably the last thing that I want to talk about, which is hopefully quite fitting, is a quote that I read from you that says, "I don't like talking about what I've done. I like to talk about what I'm doing next," which resonates with me so hard. And again, it's what we try and do on this podcast. I mean, obviously we've talked a little bit about what you've done, but not in a kind of Q&A format. And hopefully it's all felt quite relevant to now. But in the interest of, like, in the spirit of that quote, what's next for you?
A lot of things. Obviously, come and ace and undo. I've always had this question that I would randomly ask myself, or how sometimes there's those little hardcover books with questions and you ask your friends about it if you're with them.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have this question that's always been looming over my head. If I was super rich in the entire world and I didn't have to work, what would I actually want to do for work? And I think what I would love to do would be just be someone's like manager, like help small business owners who are so good at what they do, but they can't figure out the business side of things or the strategy or negotiation side of things, and help them with that. Not like super high level, just regular people like you and me who have a creative business, that they have so much opportunity to scale, but they're just such creative thinkers that, or they don't have time and they can't figure out the business side or have the bandwidth and fresh eyes to think of it in that perspective. And I think I would have so much joy being able to do that every day.
Wow. So is that something you are going to do? Is that like the next department or the
I
next
kind of
axis?
have been working. Yeah, I've been kind of working on that, which has been really cool. Like helping out some people I know negotiate their deals and structuring scope of works for them when they have pitches, and coaching them on how to pitch and negotiate. Because it's very mind-boggling to actually name your price and be confident in the price that you deserve. And I think a lot of people, and I've been there as well, this is all part of a personal journey as well, and being not lacking confidence, but just being worried about them saying no. And obviously that is applicable for so many freelancers, but I think for small business owners that have so much potential, a lot of times people don't actually see their own potential, even though they're so passionate about it and so good at what they do, but they just can't quite see the roadmap for themselves. And so I've realized that I do have a gift in that space, and I want to be able to take everything I've learned building all these businesses and just letting my passion lead me in terms of where I go, to hopefully be able to help out these other people, whoever they are.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds, you should come down to Secret Rules, Sophia.
Help Terry out.
Oh, look, that sounds like a big cuss on
boy.
just Terry, because he's the business owner. I was going to say, yeah, we're a mess, but we're not. I mean, I was joking, but you should come down. I mean, you've got a lot of gifts, it seems, and I think a lot of people will benefit from reading your email books and just following what you're doing in general, Common Ace and everything. So yeah, look, I mean, that's amazing. It's been really exciting to talk to you. Yeah, you've got to come down to the studio. Come hang out. Come give us some business tips. Where are you guys,
by the way? Are you guys where Secret Walls is?
Yeah. We're still in the same place.
I live down the street. We go to Alibi sometimes to pick up coffee. I'm on Normandy and Olympic.
Come and say hi. I mean, I only met you one time when you were doing the MLS battle.
MLS thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was
really fun. That's fun. But that's where we are. We're still there, and we're social distancing, but we are in the studio most days. So you got to come say hi when you get your coffee.
Social distance.
Yeah. I know, literally just like 4 of us just sort of sitting in this vast warehouse.
Are you there now?
No, right now I'm at home. Do you want to? Okay. That's what I was going to do. Do you want to see my little Persian cat?
Let's see your cat.
Quick? Have you got dogs in your place?
They're in the Bay Area right now. So one of them needed surgery. So she's
she okay?
Surgery. Did I tell you this? Oh God, this is like when I had to reschedule everything. We found out my dog tore her ACL. She had to get surgery. The whole cone thing cost $8,000. We had to deal with like her recovery time for 12 weeks. Yeah, she's good. She's great. She bounced back. She spent plenty of time roasting in the sun. I swear the sun has fully healed her body.
I didn't know that dogs could tear their ACL. I thought that was only basketball
apparently it's
players.
A very common thing. It's one of the most common injuries for, you don't find out until it happens. And they're like, yeah, you didn't know this? And we're just like, no.
Dog just walking around with a limp, all flat-footed. Poor dog.
We were like, we would have created a budget for all these fucking expenses. But she's fine.
What's the dog's name?
Yeah. Pico, like Pico de Gallo, or Pico Boulevard.
Like Pico Boulevard, Pico Union. One of my favorite areas. Definitely my favorite street name. All right, hang on. I'm going to get my little cat.
Go get your kitty.
I'm going to keep talking because otherwise there's dead air. But I can't
Great.
Alfie, come on, buddy. Oh, come on. Oh, so grumpy. So grumpy.
So fell asleep. Grumpy. Kitty. Oh, kitty. Oh.
Hang on, let me put my headphones on. There he is. He's a bit grumpy.
What's his name? Alfred?
Alfred, if he's done something wrong. Alfred, come on, buddy.
Alfred. Oh, Alfred. Oh, so sleepy, very grumpy. Oh no.
I've got to talk so when people are on YouTube, they can see he looks hilarious. Bro, come on, man. You look like you're on heroin or something.
Oh yeah, he's trying to enjoy his high.
Yeah, sorry. I think I might have interrupted his sleep when he was right in the middle of that REM that you were talking about.
You know what's actually really interesting with cats, if you're into woo-woo nerd shit, vibrations and energy.
He's mad into spirituality, Alfie. He'll love this.
They say cats, they have because of the vibrations they create from healing. I mean, from purring. There's actually healing factors to humans for, I don't know, some energy shit. That's why the Egyptians worship them.
Really? Because
look into when they're purring and just laying on you and purring, those vibrations actually help heal and soothe humans.
Yeah, well, because it sounds like it's got that kind of like chanting energy, hasn't it? That kind of like that like chanting vibration energy and the bloody bowls and all that.
Yeah, like very tranquil.
Yeah.
There you go.
He loves purring as well, and Persian cats are quite like submissive as well. So even if he's just not really into it, and like just you pick him up and you can tell he's not really that into it, but you're a human, you're bigger than him, you're into it, so you're gonna like give him a cuddle. He'll just be like, oh fuck it, and just start purring like immediately. So maybe that's why I do actually feel a bit better since he's come into my life. Good lad, good boy, Alfie. All right, purring. Great. I'm gonna go and get high off Alfie's purring.
Great, fantastic. I'm gonna send you those books too, so you have some homework.
Send me all the books. Send me all the links that we talked about, because there was some really, really good stuff there. Pop in to the studio next time you're getting coffee, Sophia. And thanks. That was an awesome episode. I learned a shitload then, and that's pretty much why I do this.
Great.
Cool. All right. Good to talk to you.
All right. Talk to you guys soon. Keep me updated on where things go. Am I staying on this?
Are you what? Sorry?
Should I stay on this or just exit the Zoom?
Oh, no. Do you know what?
They stop recording and then they're like,
Yeah, we'll stop now. We maybe even, it's up to Emmett. He might leave.
Should we exit? Should we exit and get out from our chair?
Fuck it. We've never done that. Yeah, let's exit.
All right, let's do that. Ready to go?
Let's exit and then come back and we can talk after.
Great.
All right.
Let's do that.